everybody. It is Miss Kefley here, and today we are going to look at conflict. And conflict is all about the struggle. And so the struggle is real for characters, and we're going to look at the different types of struggles that characters have to face within books and movies or whatever you're reading. Okay, so first let's talk about what conflict is. Conflict is the struggle between opposing forces. And opposing just means opposite. So when opposite forces are going against each other, we're going to have a conflict. And conflict is what drives the story. It keeps it moving forward. So let's explore this. We're going to do a quick write. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video, and I just want you to write down what are your experiences with conflict. And you can just do a list, like a bullet point list. And it could be conflict with a person, a place, a thing, idea, any type of struggles that you are having. And it can be struggles that you're having with yourself, and like things that you're thinking about, or it could be struggles that you're having with other people or other things, anything outside of yourself. So I want you to pause the video and then write down what are your experiences with conflict. All right, we are back. So what are your experiences with conflict? If you're like me, I have several experiences with conflict. And we all do. That's a normal part of the human experience. And so what we are going to do today is we're going to look at how we can categorize these types of conflict, because it's not just one. We can break them down into categories. So let's explore those. All right. So first, let's look at something we call internal conflict. So there are two main types of conflict. First is internal. And internal is a struggle between the character and themselves. And it's usually about the character's beliefs, ideas, or feelings. And this conflict involves a decision the character is trying to make. So an example would be you're trying to decide if you should skip school with your friends or just go to class like you're supposed to. That would be an internal conflict because you're trying to make that decision and you're struggling with right and wrong. So I want you to pause and I want you to write what your experiences have been with internal conflict. When have you experienced an internal conflict? So go ahead and pause this video and jot that down. When have you experienced an internal conflict? We are back. So if you're around people, maybe you can share what you said. I'm sure we all have had experiences dealing with internal conflict, trying to make a decision. External conflict is the other type, and it's when the struggle is between the character and an outside force. So the conflict would be something outside of the character's thoughts and beliefs. It's what they're dealing with outside of themselves. So an example would be you're stuck outside when a tornado heads towards you at an alarming speed. That's a conflict. That's a struggle. Definitely a problem because you're struggling with what's going to happen and what you should do. So your turn. When have you experienced an external conflict? So it could be with a person, a thing, weather, illness, something like that. So go ahead and pause and write down your experiences with external conflict. All right, we are back. So looking at your list, you might have a couple of examples of external conflict. And we can take those external conflicts that we have and break them down even further into different categories. So let's look. How can we break these conflicts down? All right, there are 5 types of external conflict. So let's look at those. We have character versus character, character versus society, character versus nature, character versus technology, and character versus supernatural. Now, there are a couple others, but these are the 5 that we're going to focus on because we see these a lot in our novels. So first is character versus character. And I think this is a classic one, like Tom and Jerry is a classic. And it's when a character struggles against another character. It's the protagonist against the antagonist. So when they are struggling, that is the character versus character. When you have a problem with someone else, that's character versus character. Next, we have character versus nature. Remember my example earlier when the tornado was barreling down on you? That would be character versus nature, kind of like Dorothy here. And it's when a character struggles with a force of nature. And usually the character is trying to survive. Now, it doesn't always have to be weather. It could be illness or aging as well. But usually the character is trying to survive because of this force of nature. All right, next we have character versus society. And that's when a character stands up to support their beliefs. And their beliefs are typically not what everybody around them believes or what society tells you to believe. And the character struggles against the laws of the community. And a great example is Katniss in the Hunger Games. If you've seen the movies or read the books, you know that she is going against the Capitol and President Snow, and she doesn't believe in their way of governing. So she is struggling against that. So that is character versus society. Character versus technology. And so this is when a character struggles with something that is man-made. And this can be electronics, computers, cars, robots. Frankenstein is man-made. So anything that is man-made is character versus technology. So look at our little example here. This dude is obviously struggling with his computer, so he's having a major conflict there. But it doesn't just have to be computers. Anything that's made by a person would fall into this category if the character is struggling with it. All right, finally, we have character versus supernatural. And this is when the character struggles with anything beyond human control, understanding, or forces not in this world. So this is Ghostbusters here, a classic where they are struggling with these ghosts and trying to get rid of them. But any sci-fi fantasy book typically falls in this category. Now let's discuss, what do you think is the purpose of these types of conflicts in movies or books? Why do we even have them? So I want you to press pause and then if you have someone around you, turn and talk. If you don't, no worries, just jot it down. What is the purpose of conflict in a movie or book? Back. So obviously the purpose is to keep the reader engaged in the story, and it helps you just keeps the story moving, keeps you engaged, wants you to read more because you want to see how the conflict is resolved, because you can't just leave it at the conflict and not know what happens. So you want to keep reading, and that is what the authors want you to do. So that is conflict. Oh, and it's also important to note that typically it's not just one conflict that a character is dealing with. Great authors like to layer conflicts on top of each other. So you might have a character versus character thing going on, but also character versus nature or character versus society layered in with it. And that's a really good story that keeps you super engaged. So that is it. If you are a language arts teacher and you would like some access to more materials that go with conflict in this lesson specifically, check out the links below. There's some great activities to go with this. Otherwise, I hope y'all have a great day. Thanks for sticking with me and learning about conflict, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.